Cerberus is one of those figures in Greek myth whose image arrives before his meaning does. Most people know the outline immediately. A monstrous hound at the edge of the underworld, usually with 3 heads, sometimes with serpents rising from his body, guarding the realm of Hades so that the dead do not escape and the living do not enter lightly. But the deeper you look, the more Cerberus becomes something larger than a frightening beast. He is not just there to terrify. He is there to mark a boundary that Greek myth treated as absolute. That boundary is the line between the world of the living and the world of the dead. And Cerberus matters because in Greek thought, death is not only an event, it is a crossing, a movement from one condition of being into another, guarded, structured, and difficult to reverse. Cerberus stands at that crossing as its animal form, appetite, force, vigilance, and irreversibility turned into myth. He is the reason the underworld feels like a kingdom rather than a vague shadow. Every kingdom needs gates. Every gate needs a guardian. Hades has Cerberus. In Hesiod's Theogony, Cerberus comes from the darkest possible family line. He is born from Echidna and Typhon, the great breeding pair of monstrosity in Greek myth. And Hesiod makes him enormous and excessive even by the standards of that terrifying lineage. In that older poetic world, Cerberus is not yet just the familiar 3-headed watchdog of later art. He belongs to the same brood as the Hydra and other catastrophic beings that seem less like individual animals than eruptions of disorder from the deep structure of the cosmos. That genealogy matters. Cerberus is not an ordinary dog made monstrous by size. He is born from forces that Greek myth consistently associates with chaos, danger, and the edges of divine order. And yet Cerberus is not a chaotic creature in the simple sense. That is one of the most interesting things about him. His parents belong to the monstrous world that resists order. But Cerberus himself serves the order of the underworld. He is savage, yes, terrible, yes, but he is employed, positioned, given function. He does not randomly destroy the realm of Hades, he protects it. In that sense, he represents a deeply Greek idea, that even horror can be assigned a place inside cosmic structure. Not all monsters are outside the system. Some monsters are what make the system hold. The ancient descriptions vary in details, and that variation is part of what makes Cerberus so rich. Some traditions make much of his many heads. Hesiod gives him a far greater number than the later standard 3. Other ancient writers increase the count even more, while the mainstream visual and literary tradition settles on the famous triple form. Later accounts also emphasize serpentine features: a snake tail, snakes rising from the back or neck, reptilian elements woven into the body. So Cerberus becomes not just a dog, but a composite underworld creature. Canine loyalty twisted into infernal vigilance. Animal instinct fused with chthonic venom. That composite form is important because Cerberus is never meant to feel natural. He is a creature of the threshold. And threshold creatures in myth are often mixed, unstable, and symbolically overbuilt. They combine traits because they belong where categories break down. The underworld is not simply another place on a map. It is the place where ordinary mortal distinctions lose force. So the guardian of that place is itself a violation of ordinary form. A hound, but not merely a hound. An animal, but charged with the uncanny. A beast of appetite that nonetheless carries out a law older than human cities. And that law is simple: the dead stay dead. This is what gives Cerberus his real power in the imagination. He is not just frightening because he might bite. He is frightening because he stands for the refusal of return. Greek myth contains descents into the underworld, but those descents are memorable precisely because they are rare, difficult, and usually marked by divine permission, special knowledge, or heroic extremity. Cerberus helps make that rule visible. He is the embodiment of the idea that death has a gate, and that the gate is watched. So from the beginning, Cerberus is already more than a creature from a horror story. He is one of the clearest images in Greek myth of boundary itself. Sacred, violent, necessary, and almost impossible to cross. Once Cerberus is understood that way, The stories in which heroes or singers confront him become much more than monster scenes. They become tests of whether anyone, through strength, art, or divine guidance, can negotiate the laws of death. The most famous of these stories is the labor of Heracles. In the standard tradition, bringing Cerberus up from the underworld becomes one of the final and greatest challenges imposed on him by Eurystheus. That detail matters. Cerberus is not an early obstacle, not a creature to be cleared away on the road to something more important. He appears at the summit of heroic trial. To seize Cerberus is to do something almost unthinkable, not just to enter the underworld, but to take hold of its guardian and bring him into the world of light. Apollodorus gives the best-known version of this labor. Heracles descends to Hades, obtains permission from the rulers of the dead on condition that he master the beast without using his weapons, and then succeeds through sheer force. The image is unforgettable. The strongest of heroes wrestling the Hound of Death with his bare hands, overpowering not just an animal, but a principle. Yet even here, the myth is careful. Heracles does not simply kill Cerberus and walk away. He subdues him, brings him upward, shows him, and returns him. That ending tells us everything. Even Heracles does not abolish the structure Cerberus guards. He proves that he can cross it, survive it, and momentarily master it, but the order of death remains in place. This is why the labor feels larger than brute triumph. If Heracles were only a monster slayer, Cerberus would end up as another corpse. But Cerberus is not there to die. He is there to show the scale of what Heracles can confront. The victory proves superhuman endurance and divine favor, but it also confirms the enduring power of the underworld. Cerberus goes back. The gate closes again. The world is not remade into one where death can be casually reversed. Then there is Orpheus, and his encounter with underworld powers makes Cerberus mean something different. Where Heracles confronts the realm of death through strength, Orpheus approaches it through song. In later Greek and Roman tradition, music can soften, suspend, or enchant what force alone cannot easily move. Cerberus in these traditions does not become friendly. He becomes momentarily disarmed by art. The dog who is built to guard passage yields, for an instant, to ordered sound. That matters because it reveals a second Greek intuition. Not all power is muscular. Sometimes form, beauty, measure, and lament can enter spaces violence cannot master. Virgil gives Cerberus yet another unforgettable role in the Aeneid. When Aeneas descends with the Sibyl, Cerberus appears as a gigantic presence whose triple-throated barking fills the underworld. The Sibyl does not fight him. She uses knowledge. She throws him a drugged cake of honey and meal, and the beast, overcome by hunger and sleep, collapses across his cave so that the travelers may pass. This is one of the finest Cerberus scenes in ancient literature because it preserves everything essential. Cerberus remains formidable, the underworld remains dangerous, and entry remains exceptional. But again, the way through is not simple destruction. It is ritual intelligence, preparation, and the correct handling of a sacred obstacle. Across these stories, a pattern becomes clear. Heracles overcomes Cerberus through force. Orpheus passes the underworld through song. Aeneas passes through guided ritual and cunning. Different heroes, different means, but the same guardian. That consistency tells us that Cerberus is not a decorative monster added for excitement. He is one of the great tests in myth because he stands where all human certainty begins to fail. And that is why Cerberus lasts in the imagination. He is not only a beast of fangs and jaws. He is the question waiting at the threshold. By what right do you enter? By what power do you return? And who could ever hope to pass the gate of death unchanged? By the time we reach the fuller literary and symbolic life of Cerberus, he has become more than Hades' pet and more than the target of a heroic labor. He has become one of the most concentrated images in all myth of what death means to the living. Because Cerberus is not just there to keep intruders out. In much of the tradition, he is also there to keep the dead in. That detail is essential. It means his gaze is directed both ways. He guards the boundary against violation from above, but he also enforces the finality of what lies below. He is therefore not merely a sentry. He is the violence of closure. The dead do not wander back into daylight because Cerberus exists. He is the mythic answer to the human refusal to accept that some crossings cannot be undone. That is why the image is so psychologically strong. A battlefield monster can terrify for a moment. A dragon can threaten a city. A sea beast can wreck a voyage. But Cerberus stands at the end of every life. His symbolism is wider than any one adventure. He belongs to everyone because death belongs to everyone. And yet, Greek myth does not represent that truth as abstract philosophy. It gives it fur, muscle, barking throats, venom, and wakefulness. It gives death a watchdog. There is also something revealing in the fact that Cerberus is canine. Dogs in ancient thought could signify loyalty, guardianship, companionship, hunting, and relentless pursuit. Cerberus twists those associations into something darker. He is loyal, but to Hades. He is a guardian, but of the place no one willingly enters. He does not accompany the living home. He makes sure no one leaves the home of the dead. In him, the familiar animal closest to the household becomes an instrument of the most unfamiliar household of all, the kingdom beneath the earth. And then there is the deeper irony. For all his terror, Cerberus is not the true ruler of the underworld. Hades is. Persephone is. Cerberus is a servant, a necessary one, a magnificent one, but still a servant. That distinction matters because it turns Cerberus into a perfect expression of mythic order. Even the terrifying guardian answers to a higher authority. Death in Greek myth is not random. It is administered, structured, housed in a realm with laws, rulers, borders, ferrymen, judges, and beasts assigned to their places. Cerberus helps make the underworld feel not chaotic, but governed. And that is why he works so well as an image for the ancient Greek mind. He joins two truths that human beings rarely find easy to hold together. First, death is fearful. Second, death is part of order. Cerberus carries both at once. He is monstrous, but lawful. He is savage, but not arbitrary. He is terrifying not because he represents chaos, but because he represents a law too old and too strong to argue with. This is also why encounters with him are so meaningful. If a hero confronts Cerberus, that hero is not just proving courage. He is coming to the edge of what mortals are allowed to do. Heracles can do it because he is Heracles. Orpheus tries through music because grief itself seeks to bend the law. Aeneas passes because empire, destiny, and sacred guidance require a descent. In every case, Cerberus marks the seriousness of the act. No one reaches the underworld casually. No one passes its guardian by accident. So when we remember Cerberus, we should not remember only the popular image of the three-headed dog snarling in the dark. We should remember what that image is doing. It is telling us that the Greeks did not imagine death as a blank absence. They imagined it as a guarded reality, a kingdom with an entrance, a threshold with law, a place where return is unnatural and therefore memorable. And at that threshold, always awake in myth, stands Cerberus. Not simply a monster, not simply an obstacle, but the living emblem of the gate no one crosses freely. And that is why Cerberus endures. Because every culture asks what lies beyond death. But Greek myth adds another question. What keeps the boundary closed? Cerberus is the answer. The hound of the underworld, the guardian of the dead, the creature who makes mortality feel watched, enforced, and real.